And so, hi, I'm Jennifer Roberge of the Eczema Company. And I didn't realize, I actually forgot before the call, and Carolyn doesn't know this, but today is our 13th anniversary at the Eczema Company. So it's
Oh,
a super fun celebration. And so we're having a sale on our website and everything. You can go check it out afterwards if you want. But yeah, so 13 years, it's been a long time and it's been a really fun journey. And I'm super excited that Carolyn's here and you guys are here. And today. So Carolyn's here from the Eczema Academy, and she can introduce herself. And she has some really interesting information about eczema and toxins to share with us today. So I'll let Carolyn go ahead and say hello.
I'm Carolyn Akinyemi, and yes, that's a Nigerian surname. And I developed the Eczema Academy to teach people how to get free from eczema naturally. A lot of the people in the eczema space have all had a similar story where their children and their babies have been afflicted, and so they've been fighting to free them, and then discovered things that could help other people. And I think we connected because we've got similar company names. You're the Eczema Company and I'm the Eczema Academy, and we were getting each other's emails.
Yeah.
And that's how we ended up connecting. So in the end, we said, hey, we need to just talk.
Yeah. And both of our children had eczema and drove us to start our businesses. So, yeah.
Yes, so that's how we started. So then I created a course, I created a book, Eczema Decoded. And yeah, and then just want to help people to get out of this horrible condition that afflicts people and it really does affect far more than just skin. It affects every part of your life. So yeah, today we were talking, what subject could we discuss? And we thought toxins would be a good one. Not a lot of people know how much toxins impact eczema.
Yeah,
So
as we were discussing before the call started, it's most people know about, diet and environment, pollens, stress, things like that, sometimes laundry, and there's like, a general list that we hear about. And toxins, it's one of the deeper conversations that a lot of doctors may not get into, or maybe someone isn't even aware. It's something that we looked into with my son, but it wasn't a problem for him, so we were grateful. Well, he healed with other means, which we were lucky, but I think a lot of people that are still struggling may not realize that toxins could be one of the culprits. So I think it's really great that you're here to tell us a little bit about it, because I would like to learn more myself.
yes. Well, I have a PowerPoint presentation. So I need your permission to share, actually.
Let me find that. Goodness, you know what? I have not used Zoom to record a meeting in a long time. Let me see. So I am going to, okay. I think maybe it's working now. Can you try?
Yep.
Okay. And I was going to say, there's not many of us here. So actually, for if you want to, as Carolyn's going to go through her slides and stuff, feel free to drop everything into the chat. And then as we're going through, if you have questions, drop the chat in the chat and we can answer them like real time as she's going through instead of waiting to the end. I think if anything comes up, just let us know and I'll check in the chat. All right, Carolyn, you want to take it away?
Right, here we go. Yes, so this is actually from module 9 of the course that I did. All the different toxins and how they impact eczema. Because one of the things I discovered when I was looking at eczema, I didn't have a medical background. So I didn't know where to look. People are just telling me it's a dermatology issue. But when I started to look, I found out there's a lot more involved than just dermatology. You've got the immunology, you've got allergies, you've got genetics, you've got your environment, you've got your gut health, all these kind of things all intertwine. And they create what I call the eczema spider web. So there's like 8 legs on this spider that's causing eczema. And it creates a web where all of these different legs feed into each other and get you tangled up in this web, which is why you find people saying, oh, this caused eczema. And then somebody else says, no, this caused eczema. Because not everybody has the same cause. Like your son, Jennifer, your son didn't have an issue with toxins. He got healed by other means, but some people didn't have any of the other means, and it could just be a toxin exposure.
Can we just say this is why it's so aggravating with eczema? It's like it's this puzzle for everybody to figure out how it affects them personally, and it makes it so hard to find healing. Yeah.
It really is. It's like looking for a needle in a haystack. So what we're going to talk about today is the it's not just hearsay. It's not things that I've just pulled off Google. Everything is evidence-based, all backed by research. These are things known to affect eczema and impact the severity of it and the likelihood of you developing it. So as I said, this was from module 9. I don't deal with toxins first. And a lot of people ask why, because a lot of natural health professionals go straight into toxins. If you go to someone who's a natural health. The reason why I don't, and I share a little story, there was a time I had a friend's child playing at my house and he was in the backyard. I looked in out of the window, the kitchen window, who's looking over the yard. I just thought, I'll just check on what he's doing. He's having a great time jumping on a manhole cover and jumping on and off, on and off. And every time he jumps on, there's these huge streams of brown fountain that come out each side. Every time he jumps on. And at first I looked and I thought, what on earth is that? And then I realized that's the manhole cover to the sewage. Our sewage system is blocked. And he's creating this great game by making fountains of sewage in my back garden every time he jumps on the manhole cover. So obviously I had to go and get a different game for him to play. And we had to get an emergency plumber to come and sort out the sewage system. But that's similar to our bodies, that we need to have open waste disposal units in order to detoxify. And the reason why I deal with toxins last is because all of the other things that we deal with, nutrition and immunology and genetics, they all help to open those detox pathways so that you're not going to end up with your sewage backing up. Because if you're releasing toxins from your body and they've got nowhere to go, they're going to come out through your skin, because your skin is your biggest organ, covers your whole body. And it will put the toxins through your skin to try and get rid of them if your other detox means are not open. So that's why I don't tend to do toxins first. So with the poisoning, the CDC figures, this was even just from 2019, they said there's over 2.1 million cases of acute poisoning every year. This is people who had something, you drank something, you ate something, and you got acutely poisoned by it. And a lot of the time, it's things that people expected to be safe. They went foraging for mushrooms and picked poisonous ones, or they drank a chemical that had been taken out of its chemical packaging and put in a water bottle or a soft drink bottle. And children see it and they think, oh, it's a blue soft drink. And they guzzle it and it was a chemical and they end up in hospital. So that's the, most of the acute poisonings tend to be from things that people thought were safe. Go to a restaurant and you get food poisoning. But there's chronic long-term poison exposure that is just as damaging, even though it might not have a dramatic sudden effect, but it builds up over time in the body. And so you don't actually realize you're being poisoned. There's over 100,000 chemicals that are approved for use in the the US, but there's no tests that have been done on the reaction in the body when they're combined. And you just don't use a product that only has one chemical in it at a time. Many are known or suspected to be toxic, and others haven't ever been tested in any meaningful way, but yet we're using them. We can get up in the morning, by the time we've showered, used shower gel, shampooed our hair, put moisturizers on, put deodorant on, maybe cologne, hairspray, then gone downstairs and eaten some processed food for breakfast. You've already exposed yourself to hundreds of chemicals before you've even gone out of your house. And there's been no testing to find out how those chemicals interacted together in your body. And then you've got a problem with things like glyphosate. Glyphosate was tested on human cells in a lab, but you don't buy glyphosate to use in your garden on its own. It comes in products like Roundup, which are mixed with other chemicals. And Roundup has been shown to be 100 times more toxic than glyphosate alone. So these are things that people are really not aware of.
I think not only have they not been tested for combination, but when they've been tested even individually, how long have they actually been tested? And like, we don't know the long-term effects probably on some of these. And yeah, it's a whole.
That's the thing about it being building up in the body, when it just builds up over a long time. Because when you have something that's toxic, your body will try to get rid of it. If it can't, it would tend to do something like isolate it in fat, surround it in fat globules and store it somewhere so that it's not impacting your body. So if it's doing that repeatedly over a long period of time, we might notice weight gain that we don't want, but we don't realize we've filled full of toxins in those fat cells. So you've got 4 main sources of toxins that can affect eczema. You have the air pollution, you have contact allergens, you've got the food additives, and you've got toxic metals. So I'll go through and talk about each one of these one by one. So firstly, air pollution. There's a nice picture of the smog that you can see on a sunny day over the city. It can be indoor or outdoor. You know, we often think about outdoor pollution with traffic, but there's a lot of indoor pollution as well. So the main culprits are burning fossil fuels, which people tend to be aware of. We've got the exhaust fumes from cars. They have all kinds of things in there, PM10. You've got the nitrogen oxide, nitrogen dioxide, carbon monoxide, benzene, all those kind of things in vehicle exhaust fumes. They've all been shown to impact eczema. You have the industrial power plants that are chucking out all their smoke over the cities. And then you also have things like paints and solvents and plastics. Formaldehyde is one of them that's in new houses. One of the worst things an eczema sufferer can do is to move into a brand new home that's just been refurbished or redecorated. It is filled with chemicals that exacerbate eczema. We had this with one of my daughters. We moved into a brand new home, and she had been healed from eczema for a long time. And within a short time of moving into the home, she broke out in eczema because of all the chemicals in the house. So we had to work again to get rid of those. You have tobacco smoke. You've got the smog, which really is all of these chemicals all binding together in the atmosphere. And you've also got mold and the mycotoxins that can be in, well, any kind of thing, mold toxins, spores, all those kind of things. You can breathe them in, you can get them on your skin, they can be in your food, all those kind of things as well, the air pollution. So one of them is lead. Lead is known to increase a particular cell in your body. You have inflammatory response cells called TH cells. They're helper T cells in your body. And they have different numbers depending on what they do. So you have a TH1 and a TH2 balance in the cells. If you have atopic diseases, you are heavily dominant on the TH2 side, which is inflammatory. So when you're exposed to lead, it increases that TH2 dominance in your TH cells. That leads to more eczema. It leads to more allergies, that whole atopic march from eczema exposure. And that doesn't even have to be eczema exposure from you. It could be eczema exposure. The baby could have eczema exposure from the mom. We have that nesting instinct when we're pregnant with our baby. If we start stripping down walls and you've got older paint, you're going to release all the lead into the atmosphere. You breathe it in. And they've found a lot of lead in umbilical cords from newborn babies that have gone on to develop eczema. So we have to be really careful when we get that nesting instinct. Lead water pipes, especially in London, that's a big problem. In London, the water pipes that were built into the houses were made from lead, and they haven't all been replaced. So there's a lot of lead deterioration now, and the lead leaches into the water supply that goes into the house. You have traffic fumes, which we just said, all those chemicals that are in traffic fumes. There was a lot of studies done. One particular one was 30,000 children in Taiwan. They found that all of the chemicals in traffic fumes were positively correlated with increased eczema severity and increased eczema development in children, in these 30,000 children that they studied. Another one in Germany, they found that if you lived within 50 meters, less than 50 meters of a major road, all the children had increased risk of developing eczema and of eczema severity. So it really does impact that. The traffic fumes are known to increase that TH2 dominance that I said before. You've got the piston aircraft engines. If you're living near one of the airfields where they have the small aircraft that are flying over, people tend to think they're not as bad as the big ones, but they are just as bad. They're chucking out the lead as well. You have lead batteries, waste incinerators where they're burning the waste. You can see the smoke coming up from the waste incinerator plants. And you've got houses nearby, but that smoke is full of all kinds of chemicals. You have ore and metal processing, and you've got also tobacco smoke. So all of these are increasing lead into your personal atmosphere.
I have a question. What about jewelry? You know, we always hear about like the cheap jewelry containing lead and things like that. Is that so much a worry? I guess you're not breathing in the fumes, but would it be more like a contact dermatitis type
That would be more
situation?
like contact
Yeah,
dermatitis, yeah. Especially like I've got nickel on here as well. I can't wear anything with nickel. That will
me
bring me up
neither.
an eczema type rash, a contact
Yeah,
dermatitis.
me too.
Yeah. So benzene is another one. Benzene is another one that increases the Th2 cells. And there's a thing called cytokines, which are like little messenger molecules. Your cells will send out messenger molecules to communicate with other cells. They're called cytokines. There's certain ones that are known to increase eczema. IL-4 is one of them. So interleukin-4 is one of those. So exposure to benzene increases your Th2 cell dominance and it increases the number of IL-4 inflammatory cytokines in your body that can drive eczema. And benzene is in paints and solvents. So when you're decorating your house, you're likely to get exposure to benzene. It's again in traffic fumes. It's in tobacco smoke. This is where they got the secondary smoking. You don't even have to smoke yourself. You just need to be somewhere where you're breathing somebody else's smoke. It's used in plastics and synthetic fibers. So all of the things, like I've got the picture here with the carpet. If you lay brand new carpet, you're going to be releasing benzene into your internal environment. It's also used in some drugs. Don't know why, but it's in some drugs. So you're going to be consuming it when you're taking the pharma meds. So it's only 1 part per billion increase in the blood concentration will increase eczema severity by over 27%. 1 part per billion in your blood is so minuscule, you wouldn't even think it would be noticeable. But studies have shown it will increase the eczema severity by over 27%, which is actually huge for an eczema sufferer. That's very serious. Then we have formaldehyde. This is one of the ones that brought my daughter's eczema back in the brand new houses. Formaldehyde impacts the skin directly when you breathe it or when you're in contact with it. Only 48 hours after exposure to formaldehyde, the water loss from your skin increases dramatically. And eczema sufferers already have a deficiency in their waterproof barrier. They're already losing water at too fast a rate. So when they are exposed to formaldehyde, that increases even more. And formaldehyde, again, is in tobacco smoke. It's in all of the newly manufactured homes, all the materials that they're laying in there. It will be in the flooring. It will be in the paints. It will be in the plastering. So there's a lot of exposure in brand new homes. New furniture and wood that's been treated, laminate floors. They can off-gas for many years. If you are an eczema sufferer, it's actually better to go and buy used furniture off eBay or Facebook Marketplace because somebody else has got all the off-gassing. And then you can go and get the furniture if it's in good condition and you've missed that. You've let somebody else have it.
What about I was gonna say, what about mattresses? You always hear about mattresses being off-gassing mattresses. Would it be the same formaldehyde in that?
Yes, they do. Mattresses do off-gas. If you buy a new mattress, you would hopefully buy it when it's not about to rain and leave it in your garden for a little while to off-gas. Or buy something that has a very good mattress cover and probably get an air filtration system.
Latex too. Latex mattresses, aren't they a safe option?
I made for my children, when my children had all the eczema, I got mattresses made by a company in the UK. They were made from coconut fibers, untreated. And they were really soft, comfortable mattresses. My kids loved them. They slept well on them, but they were non-toxic, completely non-toxic. And that was a really good thing that we found online. And then you've got all things like when you go for cosmetic treatments, you have these like Brazilian blow dry chemicals that they put on, and then you see when they're going over those straighteners and the clouds of smoke that come off your hair, that has formaldehyde in it as well. The now bars, when you go and have now hardening treatments and things, that they're wearing those little masks when you see them working in there. They do nothing. They're exposed to formaldehyde and all those chemicals. And then you've got I said here, increase severity of eczema by almost 80% at only 13 parts per billion. And the World Health Organization says that 80 parts per billion exposure is safe, but only 13 parts per billion increases eczema severity by 80%. That's your eczema almost doubling in severity. That's quite frightening. So formaldehyde is very, very dangerous for eczema sufferers. Toluene as well is another chemical that's shown to increase eczema severity, and that's air pollution level as well. It's one that you breathe in. And these are in some things that you wouldn't expect, like plug-in air fresheners. I had one man who had been working really hard on his eczema, and he'd kind of hit a brick wall. He'd improved dramatically, but he just kept getting these flares and he didn't know why. And so I was questioning him about things in his house, and it turned out he had the plug-in air fresheners. And when he ditched the plug-in air fresheners, that was the hurdle that he needed to get that last break. He had no idea that that was chucking out this chemical that was increasing his eczema severity. So these are in artificial fragrances. You've got it in ink, like on your receipts. Eczema sufferers need to be careful how much they handle the receipts that come out of the machines, because you've got the toluene in that. Nylon and plastic bottles. If you, well, I would say if you have suffered from eczema, but really anybody, we should try to ditch the plastic bottles, get a water filter and fill up from glass or stainless steel, or even copper, if you want to increase some copper for healing in your body. And then you've got the tobacco smoke again, keeps on.
Yeah, that's like the third time, huh?
Yeah, tobacco smoke is. Yeah. And then you've got the BBP. So we have these, this is an endocrine disruptor. So that is something that mimics hormones in your body. So when you take it, it can affect your natural hormone production. And that can increase eczema severity as well. So it has a different mechanism. It's not affecting the Th2, but it's still quite dangerous. It's been declared as toxic by the European Chemical Bureau, but it's still in loads of things. So your vinyl flooring will have it in, the PVC handbags, belts, artificial leather items, that has it all in, the paints and solvents, pipes. So you can place the lead pipes and put plastic ones in, and then you're going to get BBP exposure as well. So it's kind of difficult to avoid it.
I was gonna say, I think that PVC is kind of the standard these days, right? Like you can hear some people upgrade to copper pipes, but it's very expensive and it's difficult to do. So I'm wondering, like with the water, I'm guessing you're gonna get to this later, but there's ways to like clean your water so you don't have to worry so much about how it looks before it gets in your glass.
Yeah.
Or I mean the pipes that it comes in on, I guess.
I mean, for drinking water, I put my water through a Berkey filter. I've got the big Berkey on the side. Yeah. So I use that for the drinking water. For showers and bathing, we have the shower filter. You can take the shower head off, put a shower filter on, and then put the head back on, and that will take all the chemicals out. That's one of the cheapest ways, unless you have the money to put in a whole house filter.
Yeah.
But then that tends to be on the outside of the house, and then it's still going to go through the pipes into your house. So it's probably better and more economical to treat it as it's coming out
at the source. We're having a couple questions come in, but I'm trying to decide. One of them I think we'll wait till the end, but there is one asking about what to do if you have vinyl floors already. But if you've had them a while, they've already off-gassed probably,
yes,
right?
If you've had them a while, then they would have off-gassed.
Just don't get new ones.
Yeah, don't put new ones down.
Or plan to leave your house open and aerating for weeks before you move in.
Or there are non-toxic materials that you can use. You can put things down like bamboo floor. That's, there's non-toxic natural things that we can use instead of going automatically to what we know. We just have to be prepared to do a little bit of research.
But you have to be careful, even with like the natural, like the wood, like real wood or bamboo, like they can still apply sealants and varnishes that are really toxic. So you have to really know what's going in your floor. Yeah, so that's tough.
Yeah, it is. It is. And even carpets, like there's wool carpets and things, but if then they don't put Scotch Guard on them and stuff like that, you've got to know. You have to be able to do your own research and find out what's on it. Can I opt out of it? And make what's the word? Informed choices. Is what I'm going to say. That's really what we need to do. Whether that's food, things in the house, where we live, everything. It has to be informed choice. We can't. One of the things I teach, everything that I teach, you must take responsibility for your own health. We cannot abdicate our responsibility for our own or our children's health to other people, because people make mistakes. You've got to make sure you're checking. You've got to make sure you do your own research. This one here, the volatile organic compounds, and like you said, with wooden surfaces, I had natural wood surfaces in the kitchen in my house in the UK. But then in order to treat them, I had to use tongue oil. And tongue oil is incredibly high in Vox. So I would have to air the place for ages after I treated it. Just tell the children, no, you can't come in the kitchen. It's like, why did I put the wooden things in there? I thought I was doing okay. It was a good thing. So this again is a bit like formaldehyde. It increases the water evaporation from the skin. It's amazing how these things, you wouldn't know this. Nobody would think, oh, if I breathe paint fumes or I breathe the fumes from tongue oil, all the water is going to evaporate from my skin a lot faster. You wouldn't logically make that connection, but it does, and it's been proven in research. So because it's increasing the water evaporation from the skin, it's then increasing how dry your skin is, which is then increasing the eczema symptoms and the eczema severity. And those are in the paints and solvents. You can go to the shop and look for low VOC paints. You can buy paints that have got 0 VOCs. You just have to look for them, and you have to pay more for them. You've got detergents and degreasers, as well as you have like white spirit. When you have finished your painting, you're then going to put your paintbrushes in solvents to clean them. That's going to have volatile organic compounds in it as well.
So we're not talking about laundry detergent. You're talking about
no, the detergents to clean your paintbrushes.
Okay.
Yeah, those kind of degreasers, those kind of things. You might have harsh things for your hob. You could have things like that, degreasing detergents that would get all the burnt off grease in your oven. They could have volatile organic compounds in. And strangely enough, some cosmetics as well. If you've got cosmetics with very, very strong smells, nail varnishes particularly, they will have, they've got VOCs in, volatile organic compounds. And then you've got petrol and natural gas. You go to load up your car, the stench, the smell of that petrol is very, very strong. Those are volatile organic compounds that you're breathing. But you've also got to be careful of your non-stick pans as well, especially Teflon ones. So when you heat up your pans, especially if you overheat them, they start smoking. Those are volatile organic compounds. There's a thing called Teflon flu, that you will actually get flu symptoms. You can come down with flu and feel like you've got a really bad cold after you've been overheating your Teflon pans. People might think they've got flu. It's actually poisoning from the Teflon.
Teflon's scary. That's one of those things that's been studied and proven to cause cancer, no?
Yes, causes huge amounts of health issues. So I got rid of all my Teflon, all the non-stick.
Yeah,
I use the Le Creuset. I invested in some Le Creuset pans.
We use cast iron.
Yeah.
Or stainless.
Yeah, stainless steel cast iron. Yeah, especially I'm now going to aluminum as well, but there's another ones that you don't want. There's aluminium pans. So we spoke about traffic pollution as well. The things in traffic pollution, you've got nitrogen oxide, also nitrogen dioxide. You have the PM10. That PM is particulate matter. So, and then the number is how small it is. So it's very, very tiny. They're so small, they will pass through your nasal hairs and they can go right into the smallest parts of your lungs. So wearing a little cloth mask is going to do absolutely nothing, because these are so tiny, they can pass through the gaps in the fabric. So these are the PMs. You've got carbon.
Sorry, question about that. You said the regular cloth masks don't work, but like, what about some of the masks we discovered during COVID, like the really the tight filtration masks? I don't remember what they're even called.
You do have, I can't remember what they're called either, but you do have ones that can filter out the PM 2.5. And if you are very sensitive to it, and for that time when you're walking down the street, maybe it might be worth using. But what you notice when you put those masks on, it's harder to breathe. So it lowers your oxygen levels. So you don't want to be wearing them for very long. Yeah, it's a balance. I would say, like, if you have to walk down a busy street in rush hour, you might want to put it on just to walk down that busy street, but then take it off as soon as you're away from the traffic.
I think most people are not probably exposed to such horrible traffic pollution that it's a constant problem, unless you're in a super populated area, like maybe New York, or I mean, gosh, you're looking at some of these foreign cities like in Asia that everyone's like jam-packed and it literally looks like what your screen shows. But probably the average person is probably okay with the small doses, as long as they're filtering it out through out of their house or something, I would say, right?
And the body is designed to detox. You know, we do have detox mechanisms where, as long as we're not overloaded, we can deal with small, small issues that come up. So we had this another Swedish study. Oh, that was one I mentioned before, the Taiwan study. 30,000 children. They found the traffic pollution increases eczema occurrence and severity. The Swedish study that was done found eczema significantly affected by traffic fumes. There was another French study that had over 5,000 children, showed their eczema was increased relative to the level of traffic exposure. So this was on days when traffic was really high and the pollution was high. Then all the children, their eczema severity was high. On the days when their traffic was low, their eczema severity was low. So there was a direct correlation. And then you've got the nitrogen dioxide, sulfur dioxide, carbon dioxide, and ozone. These were all released from fireworks. So when you have your Independence Day celebrations or New Year, eczema sufferers really should be watching them from a big distance or from inside, because you're breathing all of these chemicals that are going to increase your eczema severity. So you don't really want to be breathing them in. So he said here, numerous studies have shown how these chemicals influence eczema. And I've gone through some of these already, mentioned them. So obviously we said about the Th2 dominance, the inflammatory cytokines. IgE is the antibody that's involved in allergic reactions. So if your IgE levels go up, you are more likely to have allergic responses. And then if you've got an allergic link to your eczema, that's going to increase your eczema as well. So when you have exposure to air pollution, such as diesel, exhaust fumes, the nitrogen dioxide, that increases the inflammatory cytokines. It increases the switching of your antibodies to the allergy ones. And that then increases your allergic tendencies. You're more likely to develop eczema. You're more likely to develop more allergies on the allergic march. And it also suppresses the genes for making these particular skin proteins called S100 proteins. But in this whole, was one of the cycles that I talk about in the eczema spider web. When your allergic tendencies go up and your inflammation goes up with the Th2 dominance and the cytokines, your ability to produce healthy skin proteins actually goes down, which is like the worst thing that you could have as an eczema sufferer. So the more this inflammation and these allergies go up, the lower your ability to create a healthy skin barrier. So you're reinforcing the cycle. You're just caught in this perpetual trap that keeps it going. Benzene levels also increase the interleukin-4 cytokines in the bloodstream. That increases itching. IL-4 makes you itch. It increases the irritation. And that again increases your gene expression for being able to make healthy skin proteins. Then you have the gas pollutants, the formaldehyde, nitrogen dioxide, the VOX. All of these increase the water evaporation from the skin, which makes your skin a lot drier, and then increases the itching from the dryness. And then you're going to scratch it. You're going to damage your skin barrier even more. And so that, again, impacts the whole cycle. And the VOX from things like paints, varnishes, nail varnishes, solvents, the Danish tongue oil we spoke about, that increases water loss after only 48 hours of exposure. So you've only got to be in there 2 days, and you're going to see the effect on your skin. So these are all the air pollution. So how to protect yourself from air pollutions. The best way is to get the HEPA filter. The filters that are going to remove those things from your internal environment. Obviously, you can't carry a HEPA filter down the street with you, but you can change the environment in your home with the filters. It costs a huge amount of money to put whole house filters in. They're one of the most economical ways to get the air filtration system is a company called Smart Air Filters that I found in the UK. They make little portable ones, which are highly effective, and you can carry it from room to room, and you could even carry it to work with you because it's quite lightweight. So you could have that at work in the office with you, and they only charge £50 for this little portable air filtration system, which is so economical. It's such a good thing for eczema sufferers to have. So there's a link there that you could go and check out those ones. We spoke about filtering the water that comes into your house. You could got lead pipes, PVC pipes. There's also loads of other chemicals that can be in your water. You've got runoff from farming land with pesticides. You've got hormones in the water. I don't know what the water's like in America, but in the UK, high developed cities like London, they recycle the water. So it goes into the sewage, then it goes to be cleaned, and it goes back into the houses. So you can disinfect that water and clean it, but it's not going to remove the hormones. So people who are, or ladies who are on the contraceptive pill, for example, they are urinating into that system, and those hormones are going to be in that water. So those could be those can also be affecting your own hormone production.
There's been tests showing there's a lot of medication in the water. It's
Yeah,
wild. We have a reverse osmosis machine, so it takes everything out of the water.
yeah,
But the negative to that is that it takes all the good minerals out of the water too. Like it
yeah.
completely, you have like zero, your water is like, there's nothing in it except I guess what's the H2O, the basic, there's nothing added anymore.
But it's
And those minerals though, you need them, right? So like that's been a thing we've been trying to figure out is like you remove everything, how do you add back in? Because we've been having trouble with cavities in our family and things like this. And I think a lot of it is we're not remineralizing our teeth with the good minerals that are in the water, what that you remove when you really take out the stuff from
benefit that is, when I tell you how to correct that, you will be shocked at how simple it is.
Oh yeah, tell us.
You just need to get some Celtic sea salt, which has 88 minerals in it, and you put a pinch in your water all the time. Every drinking water, you just take it out, you put a pinch of the salt, and you can't taste it. It doesn't taste like salt water, but you're remineralizing your water with 88 minerals.
So that's interesting. Would it work with I also Himalayan salt too, or you really say sea salt's a better one?
The sea salt, I believe, is the better one. There is Himalayan salt would work as well, but the 88 minerals has been shown in the Celtic sea salt.
So that's like easy for me to do as like an adult, but like when you're dealing with kids and stuff that are just filling up their bottles, or you don't always know when they're doing, what they're doing with water. So it's a little bit harder.
Do they take it direct from the filter?
Yes.
So the other thing you can do is just fill up a big bottle. If you get a glass bottle or something, or a jug on the side, and then you've already treated it and they take it from there.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Oh, we got a new question here. What was this? Oh, I really like Cocoa Shine toothpaste and Cocoa Floss, just FYI. The medicine in the water is so scary. Oh my gosh, I agree. So scary. That's why we just take everything out of our water. I'm like, I feel like it's safer, but I don't know. Are we harming ourselves by not getting those minerals? But yeah, I will look at that, what you just suggested.
And the other thing with cavities as well is to use xylitol. You get
Yes. I read something bad about xylitol the other day and it scared me, so I'm not
some of
doing
it is
anymore.
GM. Yeah, you have to get a natural xylitol because they make a lot of it from GM corn and stuff.
Oh, maybe it was that.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry to interrupt. Keep going.
So yeah, we reiterating again, it's best not to buy or rent a brand new home due to the off-gassing that's happening if you're an eczema sufferer. And decorate and furnish with eco-friendly paints and furnishings. Buy secondhand from the eBays, the marketplaces, neighbors, expats that are leaving, all those kind of.
Facebook Marketplace. I'm a big sustainability champion, and we do a lot of secondhand shopping. Facebook Marketplace, for anybody in the US, you can get anything and everything on Facebook Market. Is like the new amazing place to get used things, I find. So just in case you haven't checked it out.
Yeah. And then like natural decorating, you can choose natural things to decorate your home. I love beach themed things, so I would just go to the beach and pick my own stuff, decorate the stuff from the beach. I mentioned the chemical air fresheners. You can use natural scents and plants to freshen the air. There's so many natural things you can use. Essential oils. You can use just herbs. Ylang ylang. I've got an ylang ylang plant actually in my garden. It's amazing smell. That's a great air freshener. Lemons. You can put lemon juice, squeeze it into the water that you're washing the floor with. That's going to smell your house nice and fresh. We don't have to be using the chemicals. If you're living in the traffic hotspots, if you can move, sometimes we can be fighting a losing battle. If you can, just move. And then avoid opening the windows as well. If you know that there's peak hour rush hour outside, don't open your windows and air your apartment then, because you're just opening it and bringing all those chemicals in. Same with airing your laundry. If you hang it on the line during rush hour traffic time, you're going to be bringing all those chemicals in and wearing them.
That's an excellent point. Yeah, that's wow.
And that's the same
next to your your nose all day long, right? Like
you're going to put it right on the eczema.
And on the eczema. Yep. Goodness.
And I always say that as well as being careful in pollen season, especially if you have with your babies, if they have eczema. One of the ways they develop the allergies is the things are going through the broken skin barrier, and anything that goes through your skin, your body is going to treat as a potential pathogen. And so it's going to, the IgE response, no one's investigated this, no one's talking about this, but this is one of the things that I've picked up from the research. If something comes through your skin, it's triggering the IgE response, the allergy response. But the IgE antibody was designed for parasites. It has a degranulation. It actually degranulates, and those granules are supposed to destroy whatever it is attacking. But those granules cause itching. They suppress your gene function for making new skin. They increase the inflammatory response. They have a whole cascade of effects in our body. But that mechanism is to kill parasites, which is why we're developing allergies when we have things going through our skin and things that are going through the broken skin barrier as well. And then our body is saying, oh, that's a threat, whether that's peanut protein, whether that's birch pollen protein. Our bodies are then seeing that as a parasite and mounting an allergic response against it. So you also don't want to be drying your laundry outside when you've got pollen season full on, because you're going to get the pollen, and then you're going to put that on your eczema skin as well.
So one of my son's major triggers that we figured out later, I don't know why it wasn't super obvious to us. We started noticing there was a pattern, and every spring his eczema would get worse and worse, just in the spring, and then kind of maintain, but then it would get worse the next spring and then maintain that bad level. And yes. We realized it was birch pollen. So as soon as the birch pollen hit, it would really irritate him, especially in his creases and stuff, and his skin would just be like horrific. And when we started, so I don't know if it was a combination, it wasn't from inhaling the pollen, which is what a lot of people think. You're breathing in that, and so that's what causes the sniffles and all that stuff. But with the skin, it was definitely a contact situation. I guess he was absorbing it through the skin, and he would flare up. So as soon as we started covering his skin during the pollen months, even just long pants, or sleeves like the ones we sell, things like that, that like helped so much just to prevent that like contact of the pollen on the skin. I don't think a lot of people think about that. And it was one of the reasons doctors don't talk about it a lot. And so it was one of the things that took us a long time to figure out. And then when we did, it was like, oh my gosh, you could totally control it, because you knew every spring it was coming, and you just prevented it by like wearing, long pants, long sleeves. Unfortunately, it's hot, but it works. It worked for us. So that was a big one.
Did your son get oral allergy syndrome?
Yes.
Yeah, that's common with birch allergy.
Yeah, he does. Apples, he gets itchy mouth from apples.
Yeah.
That's the main one. Yeah.
Yeah, apples, any raw fruit or vegetable, if you eat them cooked, it changes the protein structure. So they don't react to them. But that's very common, because your body thinks they've got a protein structure that's so similar to birch that when you eat it, your body thinks you're eating birch pollen protein. So it reacts. But one of the ways we learn to get rid of it is because vitamin C is a natural antihistamine. If you suck a vitamin C tablet, it takes it away.
Never heard that. That's interesting. Oh my.
Vitamin C is so powerful. I remember we were driving. I had the story in the book, actually, in the course. We were driving one time through Trinidad, and we were stuck in gridlock traffic. And then one of my children looked at one of my daughters, what happened to your face? And I looked around, and she's breaking out in hives all over her face. Her face is swelling like she's had a nut exposure. And I was like, we've been sitting in the car. We haven't even had any nut exposure. I'm like, what did you eat? She said, I haven't eaten anything, Mummy. And, I've always not shown any fear. I refuse to show any fear whenever there was any allergic reactions, because fear and panic just increase the anxiety, and that would make the response worse. And I thought, it's okay. I've got antihistamines in my bag. And then when I opened my bag, somebody had taken it out to rub on a mosquito bite and not put it back. So now we're sitting in gridlock traffic. Her face is swelling, and I've got no antihistamine. And I'm thinking, I have no idea where there's even a pharmacy, and I'm stuck in this traffic. I can't get off anyway. So I'm thinking, what do I do? What do I do? And then I remembered reading an article about vitamin C being a natural antihistamine if you take it in high enough doses. So I had in my bag some chewable vitamin C's. So they were 500 milligrams each. I took 8 of them out, or 10. It was 8 or 10. And I said, eat these quickly. And I gave her all of them. Thankfully, they were nice tasting orange flavor. She liked them. She just ate them all, and all of the hives went. The entire allergic reaction was stopped.
Wow. Well, what's safe? That's a lot. That is a super high dose. I think it's fine, right? Because it's water-based. It's a water soluble.
So with vitamin C, your body will absorb everything it needs and then pass out what it doesn't need if you have excess, because it's water soluble.
Okay.
If you had too much vitamin C, you would end up with loose bowels. That's
Oh,
what you would.
right. Oh, yes. With that high dose, I'm sure she did.
No, she didn't.
So,
Because
she
she
didn't.
used it. No,
So,
you can take, like even when I have flu, the sicker you are, the more you can take. It varies.
Yeah.
So if you're very healthy and you took a really high dose, you could get an upset stomach. But if I have flu, I make myself vitamin C drinks with the powder, and they are 15,000 milligrams each drink, and I will have that 3 times a day, and it will not upset my stomach at all.
I had read recently that only 1,000 milligrams can be processed by the body at a time. So to take it over a longer period, like more frequently, but lower dose, no. Well, I guess
it varies on how sick you are. Your body, your cells will absorb however much they need.
Yeah. So in this situation, do you think even just having like an orange would help, or what about if you don't have the?
It has to be very
Okay. So if you had pills rather than tablets to like suck on, it would be the same speed and acting, or
possibly. I don't like the tablets because there tends to be lots of fillers and stuff in them. So personally, I like the vitamin C powder, the pure powder, but I just carried those ones in my bag just for emergencies. It's like, okay, have a vitamin C or something. But yeah, it's a high dose. It has to be high enough dose to work. And for endoscopy, that needed a high dose.
That's super interesting. We got a little off topic, and now there's some questions here about there's one about fermented food, and I'm not sure. Anyway, there was a question about fermented food. What about fermented food? Was that in your list, or is that
No, fermented food is not a toxin, so it's not something that we'll cover. Fermented food is actually incredibly good for you, but it has to be done correctly. When you make the fermented food, it has to be completely away from any contact with air. If it's exposed to the air, it creates histamine. And people with eczema tend to have histamine intolerance. So then eating fermented foods would make your eczema flare. That means it hasn't been prepared properly. But properly prepared fermented foods that are in an anaerobic environment and don't contain histamine are very good for your microbiome and very good for gut health, which then increases your health in just about every other area.
There was also a question about how long does it take to offer a new home to off gas?
It can take years.
Oh.
The most of it comes off immediately when you unpack it. That would be like weeks into months, but it will carry on off gassing slowly. It's like when you see those graphs that come down, and then it comes down.
Oh, I'm sorry, I unmuted myself. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, well, so the reason I ask about this fermented food, because my eczema, I think, was triggered by moving my hands inside the jar with fermented, I mean, not with fermented. When I was doing my sauerkraut, I do ferment my own food. And I, I just, when it started, you was squeezing the cabbage, and you have lactic acid inside. And this is how it was triggered.
Okay,
5 months ago.
Was when you first started making it and you're squeezing the cabbage with the salt.
Yes, and after you have to squeeze every day to be sure that, it's, so it's more and more fermented.
Yes.
And
so I use a wooden rolling pin to squeeze it. Well, I don't use my hands. The other thing you've got to bear in mind is I'll go into this a little bit. These plants have things called oxalic acid, a lot of plants, and oxalic acid causes contact dermatitis on your hands if you're sensitive to it. So it's likely it could have been that caused it, but I'll go into that in a minute. We have a thunderstorm going over, and I'm really hoping we don't get a power cut if the lightning is too close. So let's see.
On top of that, I just realized we only have 6 more minutes. So this has been such an interesting topic. I know. And I want to make sure we get to our questions too, and that Carolyn, you have a time to finish. So we're going to have to rush through. And I was going to say real quick, Kara was talking about well water, radon, iron, manganese. We have had radon system installed, an NaCl salt column softener, but to get iron manganese low, the NaCl in the water is high. Water is very soft. So to get soap off detergent out, the minimal derma-approved detergent and multiple rinses, tried showering instead of relatives, and her city water from reservoir is unfiltered, has minimal hydrochloric acid added. The skin's still miserable ideas.
Yeah.
That's a loaded one.
That is a loaded one, unless I can't cover that in 6 minutes.
Yeah.
I would say to contact me. Just go onto my website. You'll find my email address there, but it's Carolyn@eczemaacademy.com. You can email me as well. But these ones here, we mentioned contact allergens, where we mentioned about nickel as well. This can mimic eczema, and that can come up from artificial fragrances, preservatives, oxidizing agents, surfactants in your detergents, sodium lauryl sulfate in your toothpaste, hand sanitizers, and then these got this really long one in the permanent hair dyes. And this nickel allergy, 17% of women, 5% of men, 700 million people have nickel allergy. The oxalates, this is what I was mentioning to you, oxalates and solanine, they can react hours after. So you have the exposure, and then it could be 4 hours later, 8 hours later, you suddenly have a breakout and you have no idea because you've forgotten what you were handling then. So things like dasheen, eddos, nightshades, nettle foods, green leaves have it as well, which is why I said it could have come from you handling those. The parabens, and then bronopol, which is classed as a dangerous chemical, and that's known to cause skin and respiratory irritation, and it's lethal to aquatic life. Yet, it's authorized as a preservative in cosmetics, fragrances, personal care, fertilizers, plant care products. The mind boggles, really, the mind boggles.
So read your ingredient lists on your food and your skincare and understand what's in it. That's why I like some companies, like everything's super clean. These things are scary. Yes.
This one as well. This is MC or MCI, and it's got these really, really, really long names, which I'm moving these long names. These are it's a preservative in wet products, shampoos, moisturizers, things like that. They are classified as a strong allergen by the UN. So, but yeah, it's in so many things, and you need to check it because it's increasing in problem. It's now considered a global problem, the allergy to this. It's in so many things, and it can affect the whole body. So you could use a shampoo and you can break out in eczema anywhere on your body. So you won't link it to the shampoo. So you've got to check your products. If you have eczema, you've got to look for MI or MCI on the product. Ditch it. If it has that in, do not use it. And these other ones that contain those, if there's a list here, if people could just take a picture on their phone or whatever, these other chemicals, they contain MI or MCI. So that one's very, very, very dangerous for eczema sufferers. We had the formaldehyde we spoke about as well.
I was going to say real quick, we had 2 questions pop up. One was the homeopathic medicine for allergies. Yes, that works. I've used that personally with my family. Amazing, like life-changing, because there's no side effects like with the drugstore allergy medicines. There's some really good ones out there in homeopathic. Yeah. And I like the blended remedies where there's like several different ingredients. I don't take just the granules. They don't work as well for me as the blended like solutions that like we have Homeodel and Homeosante and all these companies, they'll make blends. For me, they work better, but there are some individual remedies you can take.
And you can get them tailor-made to you as well. So if you have an allergy, because water molecules have memory, they can put that substance that you're allergic to in, dilute it again and again and again and again and again, and the memory will be in the water without any of the protein being in the water. So your body starts to tolerate it as an acceptable substance, and you gradually increase the concentration, and you're cured.
I've done that. There's a Homeodel, I think in Montreal does one that helps you fight up the resistance to it. That works very well. There's also a question here about using unscented bison tallow soap and beef tallow being safe. And personally, I agree. We sell those at the Eczema Company because they are like one of the cleanest soaps that you can buy. It's literally like 2 ingredients, I believe. If you don't get a scented one, and if you get scented, usually it's an essential oil in tallow, because tallow, the people that make and sell tallow do it because it's clean. So they're not going to add like a fragrance usually, but again, check the ingredients. You agree?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
It's a very good one. Yeah.
So I don't even know how we got these ones here. We haven't even gone into a lot of the other 4, but we will. Oops. Yeah, all the food toxins and everything we had. So handle your wear gloves. If you're going to be handling high oxalate plants, you can wear gloves to do the rubbing with the salt. Switch in your products that you're using, cosmetics, to make sure that they are clean. So you identify and remove sources of contact allergens. Taking your own disinfectant spray, your own hand soap. You know, when we're going in the shops and they're saying you've got to use this, they're all alcohol based, they're all chemical based. And it's better to take your own. You could take an oil and put tea tree oil in it and just say, no, I've got my own stuff, or your own moisturizer, and add tea tree or thyme oil or manuka honey oil into your moisturizer, and you've got an antibacterial hand cream. And when you go into these shops, they say, no, thanks, I'll use my own. I've got my own here.
But just
And-
make sure you're using it the right amount with the essential oils, right? Like there's a minimum and a maximum to use. And for it to be a disinfectant or an antibacterial, you have to make sure you're using the right percentage.
That's
Usually
right,
it's
that's
1% or 2 or more sometimes.
Yeah, I think
That's important, or it won't be effective.
yeah, up to 3%. Yeah, and this is one here. Yeah, so we're going to have to stop here because of the time. There is so much more in toxins. I didn't even realize how quick time flies when you're having fun. I didn't realize how time had gone so quick.
How many more slides do you have, Carolyn? Is there a way to power through? And then if people have to drop off, they can drop off, but we can, I know I had told you 12 too, so I want to appreciate your time and not push forward if you need to absolutely go.
This is what's the, where are we? We're on slide 20 and I've
Oh
got
my
30
gosh.
slides. There's 10 slides.
It's up to you. We can say no more questions and just like power through if you want to do like a quick kind of recap of each one.
If people are happy to stay on, yeah.
Okay. Well, we're recording it too. So, but it's your time. So you tell us, are you okay for a few more minutes?
I'm
Okay.
fine, yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
So the food toxins, we have here, these can cause delayed eczema rash. One of the ones that my children suffered from heavily was calcium propionate, the preservative. That's in lots of bread products, even the gluten-free ones. And that can cause a delayed reaction. 48 hours later, it can trigger eczema. So that was another one. Like you said, it's a bit of a detective thing trying to find these delayed things. Sulfites, especially in dried fruits. If the dried fruit is a bright color, they've used sulfites to preserve the color, and they can cause eczema. The sodium benzoate is another one. That's in a lot of soft drinks and things like that. You've got artificial colors, tartrazine, FD&C, yellow, number 4, carmine, number 5, annatto. These colors all trigger eczema and increase severity. Stabilizers and emulsifiers, they're used to make water and oil mix together and hold them together, but they can cause eczema as well when they're some of these. Artificial flavors, flavor enhancers, especially MSG. MSG is really bad for eczema. And then you've got the artificial sweeteners like sucralose and aspartame, which when you eat them and you digest them, they actually convert to formaldehyde. Which
Studies are showing those are like worse now than regular sugar, like way worse. It's quite scary. Like
at least sugar is a natural product that your body knows how to deal with. But for these to actually, we've spoken about formaldehyde and how bad that is for eczema sufferers. Now you're eating these aspartame and sucralose and your body's turning it into formaldehyde internally. So that's why it's really, really don't want to go there. And we have here a list of some of the artificial additives that are in and known side effects. I don't know if you want to just take a picture of this. I've got on my screen the people in the meeting that I can see, and it's on top. I don't know if you guys can see it on top of the PowerPoint, or is it only me seeing it?
I see it. Yep.
You can see it, so it's blocking out what you're reading.
Oh no, I mean I see your screen. Yeah.
Oh no, I was wondering if you could see the list of all the people's faces blocking.
Yeah, mine's doing it, and it's framing your
Okay, right. So these here, if people want to take a picture rather than me go through them, these are lots of the E numbers and what they can cause in the body, things that they have been studied and known.
Sorry, hold on. They don't show up as the E number on a label though. So how would they know? Like tartrazine, I've heard of, that would show up, but not the E102. So like these ones like E512, I guess, how would that, what's the name of that would be on an ingredient label?
Oh, I didn't put that in there.
Okay.
It's the color E58. I didn't put that in there.
Colors. These are all colors.
Those are ones.
Got it.
And preservatives, different things like that. But where I am in Trinidad, they list all the E numbers.
Oh.
They don't. Yeah, usually it's just the E numbers that's listed.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, so just avoid artificial colors if you can. I guess that's the lesson here.
They're preservatives, the bright colors, the flavor enhancers. Those are the ones, and the artificial sweeteners. Those are the things you want to think. When I did the nutrition one, I said, eat food the way it grew or the way it lived. If you do that, you can't go much wrong. But every time it's processed, you know, I kind of say tongue in cheek, if man touches it, man corrupts it. It's especially true when it comes to food and the processed foods that we eat. So you had here the not all ingredients are listed. So you've got to be careful of things like mold and mycotoxins in dried foods. Any dried beans, coffee, all those kind of things, they can have mold products and mold spores in, which is not actually an ingredient, but it's there and it can trigger eczema. So you might want to get ones that are tested and certified to be free from those things. Nickel can be in beans, lentils, shellfish, soy, chocolate, coffee, spinach. You've got propylene glycol, which is like used in antifreeze, but that attracts water, and that can be put into foods as well to make them moist. Plastics from the containers and the wrap, that's leaching into the food. We're seeing now huge amounts of plastic in placentas, and that's damaging to the mitochondrial function of your cells. That's like the powerhouse of your cells. If your mitochondria isn't functioning properly, none of your organs are going to work the way that they should be because they're lacking the energy to do so.
They are finding microplastic in the brain now.
Yes.
So it can reach the blood-brain barrier, which is probably the scariest thing. They're saying microplastics are now they're systemic, like they pass through everywhere, which is very frightening.
Very, very frightening.
Stay away from plastic when you can.
Yeah, and the bioengineered, which they're, you know, GMO, we were looking for GMO, but now they changed it to bioengineered and they keep changing the name of it. It's usually, if you look for it on the list, they put it in small print. If that's your ingredient list, it will be kind of down here somewhere, well away from it in small print.
Carolyn, in the US and Canada, it is not required to be on the label. So you have to know what foods are commonly genetically modified. And if that's a concern to you, then you avoid those foods. Usually, if it's GMO free, the company has paid to have that certification and the label, so they say it. But there's a lot of companies that don't do that and they're safe. So you just have to know what the ingredients are and try to avoid them. That's it.
Right, which goes back to what I said, doing your own research and being your own best advocate. Protecting yourself from food toxins. Review the module that I had on the food and nutrition. Start growing your own if you can. If you've got a garden, grow things that you can eat. Ditch the processed and the fast foods and eat as close to nature as possible, and learn to read and understand food labels. That protects you a lot. And then the big one was heavy metals. Aluminum, or aluminium, as they say in the UK. I've just got pictures on here so I don't actually have to say it. There's pictures on here of where this exposure can come from. This seriously increases eczema.
Can I add a big one is deodorant. That's not on there, but that's a huge one. Yeah. They make aluminum-free deodorant these days.
Yeah, we use that. It's true. 1992 showed the aluminum in these things increases eczema development, especially if they're given multiple ones at the same time. Child eczema commonly develops at 8 weeks of age. Well, what else happens at 8 weeks of age? That's a big coincidence. There was a 2016 study that proved that eczema risk was greatly reduced if these things were delayed until after a year. So the current schedule, there was a study done that said that the aluminum levels in the blood of infants exceeds the safety levels of adults by for the first 2.5 years of their life, if you follow the schedule. That's really scary because that crosses the blood-brain barrier, increases ADHD and autism risk, eczema and atopic risks, huge ramifications. It can cause but this is known, it causes the early skin cell death. So when your skin goes through the layers, the final one is the collapse of the cell to make the flat corneal layer, which will be your tough skin barrier on the end. If you have exposure to aluminum in your body, it causes those skin cells to collapse too early. So they haven't filled up with the skin proteins, they haven't got enough water in them, they haven't got enough fats in them. So then you have a defective skin barrier. It can't form properly. It's very common for infants to develop aluminum allergy, but this is not tested for by doctors. If they develop eczema at 8 weeks old, they should be tested for aluminum allergy before they have any others given to them. And this is used as an adjuvant. One of the reasons it's used as an adjuvant is because we don't actually inject people with enough of a disease to create an immune response. It doesn't work. So they have to use something as an adjuvant to trigger the immune response. So it's like if we put something poison in it, that's going to trigger the immune response. The immune is then going to notice the virus while it's attacking the toxin. That's the theory behind how it works. Unfortunately, that toxin attaches to any other protein. So while your body is then attacking the aluminum, it also picks up all the other proteins, and it will then recognize those as a threat. So if they've been cultured on egg, or if they've been cultured on milk, or if they've got MSG in the shots, if they've got peanut protein in them, all of these things are now then going to be recognized as a threat and as a pathogen, and you're going to make an immune response against them. You also have makeup, cookware, people cooking in aluminum foil, your aluminum cookware, especially when aluminum is in contact with water, it creates a particular toxic version of aluminum, which is very, very dangerous in the body. And a slightly different thing, there was a doctor called Dr. Exley, who's the world-renowned expert on aluminum poisoning. He had loads of donated brains from people who had died, and he examined them, and without fail, every single person who had Alzheimer's, their brains were riddled with aluminum. And all the people who died without Alzheimer's, their brains were free from aluminum. We have heavy metal, mercury. Mercury binds to skin cells and also binds to hair, thyroid, liver, pancreas, kidney, and brain, stops them from working properly. It negatively impacts your ability to absorb nutrients. It can kill off your gut microbes. It can contribute to leaky gut, stops you producing skin proteins, affects your detox pathways. And you'll get these from leaking mercury fillings, shellfish, again, shots, things like certain fish that are high in it. I broke a tooth once eating pilau rice and bit on a lamb bone, and it broke a tooth that had a mercury filling. And I couldn't get to a dentist here at the time because it was during the lockdowns. And I broke out in eczema really badly, like all under my arm, massive amount of it. And it was from the mercury that was leaking into my body. And once I managed to get the tooth extracted, and I took all the mercury out of my mouth, I said, get rid of all of it. And then it went. And then you've got other heavy metals. We need some heavy metals to function. We need some metals like copper and stuff, but it's when they're too much and they're out of balance and they become toxic, then that increases the inflammatory response. And we've also got to be aware of nanoparticles as well, that they can go into the tiniest tissues, including the brain, and then cause dysfunction in organs as well. So we said about filtering your water, reverse osmosis, but then you have to put the minerals back in, or even a big Berkey, things like that. Replace any aluminum cookware. Don't cook in foil. Use banana leaves or something like that for things you would have used foil for. Check cosmetics for aluminum and heavy metals. What's it called? The not Green Meadow, but EWG, Environmental Working Group. You can check your cosmetics on there and they will tell you what the ingredients are and whether they're safe. Only eat low mercury fish. Educate yourself on what fish are clean. And if you have amalgam fillings, consider checking for mercury toxicity. If you can, if you do have the money to get them removed, get them removed. So to detox safely, you've got to work on getting your pathways open. So these are just very briefly, you want to be opening your sweating detox pathways. Make sure you sweat, exercise so that you build up sweat. That's a detox mechanism. Make sure you go to the toilet every day. Everybody has to take the trash out every day, including us with our bodies. If you're not going to the toilet, if you have a problem with constipation, that's a big issue that you're going to have to work towards, because the longer your waste sits in your body, the more you're absorbing the toxins from the water that's inside it. And it increases your histamine levels in your body, which makes you more susceptible to allergic reactions and eczema flares. The kidney and liver detox pathways. So even just drinking an organic coffee every morning, a strong coffee, that will encourage your liver to produce bile, which will encourage you to be able to go to the toilet every day. There's supplements that are on here that can help detox. Eating organic as best as possible. Try to play the rainbow game. 2 colors of everything every day would help if you can. Even if you put it all in a smoothie, you can easily have 6 in a smoothie. And that's a big whammy that you've done. Get tested for nutritional deficiencies as well, because if you're low in minerals, like you were talking about having health issues from the reverse osmosis, the minerals are very helpful for you because they bind to toxins and carry them out of the body. So if you become nutritionally deficient in minerals, you're less likely to be able to detox. So the Celtic sea salt is very, very important for putting that back. And then the other legs of the eczema spider, this is how it all interacts. These are the 8 legs of the eczema spider, and they all feed into each other. So if you want to know more about all the other eczema spiders and how they work, how they impact, how they feed into each other, what you can do to correct them and snip these spider web strands, then the readers can get the book off of Amazon. And then there's a link there to my website for the actual video course. The whole book is in video as well for those who don't like reading. And you've also got downloadable links and things that can help you to work through stuff. So that is everything we whizzed through the end. So any more questions?
That's amazing. Someone had a question for me actually, and I cannot reply. I'm trying to reply in the chat and I'm not able to. Someone was asking if we put all of our products through the Skin Safe app for the EWG, and my answer is that no, most of our brands are not on there because they're so small that they can't afford that certification or they haven't done it. But we disclose like every single ingredient for all the products, and you will see them if you order the products, and they're all very clean. And like I look through all of them. That's one of the criteria when we bring a product on, is it has to be safe and non-toxic and very clean. So it's full disclosure. You see everything that's in there. You will understand all the ingredients. There's nothing scary and nothing on any of Carolyn's lists. But no, they're, like I said, the brands are really too small. We are Euro Naturals, one of my products, the Manuka, is on there. We didn't do the full certification because it's very expensive, but they did give us a rating of a 1, but it wasn't
That's
the full.
that's the top rating.
Yeah, all of the stuff we carry is a 1. We don't carry anything above a 1 at the Eczema Company. So
Yeah.
well, that would be equivalent to a 1, I should say. I looked at all the ingredients. Yeah.
Yeah, your products are amazing. They're so clean.
Thanks.
Yeah, I get people saying to me, it's like, oh, would you recommend my product? And then I read it and I'm loads of the things on there that I've got in my toxin list. It's, I can't recommend it.
Yeah, and a lot of it was for your reasons, but then, you know, the other is also that the skin is, you know, it's basically an open wound when you have eczema, and so all of that goes into your bloodstream, and like not even that, you know, for the detox reasons, or not because of potential allergens, but those, you know, those chemicals getting into your body, and it's just like, gosh. And a lot of the drugstore recommended creams and things bothered my son even. So like,
Yeah.
you know, I won't mention the big brands, but a lot of them have a lot of those preservatives you mentioned, and they have alcohol, and they really, really burned my son.
Yeah.
And I know they irritate a lot of people. I mean, when you're pouring basically alcohol in these open wounds, and it's just, it's not soothing.
No.
So anyway, that's why
like the alcohol, because they're trying to get rid of things like staph. So they want something in there as a disinfectant, but it's killing your healthy microbiome as well on the outside. And then that's going to make it worse, because pathogenic bacteria always repopulate faster than your friendly commensurate bacteria. So you end up with this seesaw that's constantly out of balance. That's where people who have bleach baths, you see people online recommending bleach baths. It's one of the worst things you can do. You will perpetuate the problem and make it far, far worse in the long term.
And you're breathing in chlorine, and
anyway,
that's a whole nother. Oh my goodness, this was so interesting. Thank you so much, Carolyn. I think everyone probably really enjoyed that and learned so much. I learned a lot, that's for sure. So we'll keep this. I'm gonna probably turn off the recording here in a minute, and then we can share it with everybody. But thank you so much, Carolyn. This was amazing. Do we have any more questions before we stop the recording? No? Okay, I'm gonna turn it off.